Chris Newland, one of our staff members, is on. Thank you for being on. I just noticed Kim Owens. Anyone else on the NDSC staff on? And I believe that Valerie Williams is on the call. Valerie, are you on with us today?
I am, Jawanda. I was attempting to just listen and lurk in the background. I didn't know you were going to call me out.
Well, I couldn't see you. Heather told me, so you can blame her. But we're always thrilled to have Valerie with us. Valerie, as most of you, I hope, know, is the director of the Office of Special Education Programs of the U.S. Department of Education, and we are thrilled that she could take a little bit of time to join us today and appreciate everything she does for our students. And she's also a mom of a young man with Down syndrome. So, Valerie, we are glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. With that, I am going to get us going. All right. So, you all know this is our NDAC quarterly call. I'm having technical, there we go. This is our current NDSC policy team. You can reach any of us and by email or phone, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Heather Sachs is our interim policy and advocacy director. As you all know, she's our former policy director, and she's stepping in and helping us out. And Stephanie is on loan as the interim executive director for NDSC, so she's not on the team, but Ricky Sabiga, who you'll be hearing from, and Chapman Bryant, who you will also be hearing from, are on our policy team. This is our agenda. I'm not going to read this to you because I think you all have probably already seen it, but it just kind of tells you what we're going to go through today. And as I said, we're very excited to have Heather, Craig, and Lisa chatting with us today. But with that, I am going to turn it over to Stephanie Smith-Lee, who is the interim executive director of the National Down Syndrome Congress, and she's has a few words for you. Stephanie.
Thank you, Jawanda. Welcome, everyone. This is going to be an exciting call. I want to thank our guests for joining us and being part of an important announcement today. I also want to thank everyone for being on the call. And Valerie, we promise not to put you on the spot. I wanted to give you just a quick update on a few things that are going on with the National Down Syndrome Congress. First, I want to thank everyone who contributed to our end of year fundraising campaign. We raised $200,000 this year, the most that has ever been raised in an end of year. So thank you for all of your support on that. You're going to be hearing about the convention a little bit later on this call. We're very excited about how things are shaping up for convention. We have some fabulous speakers. I think everyone is going to be really interested in hearing, both for the general convention, deep dives, and the youth and adult convention. We also have a golf tournament coming up March 25th in Atlanta. If anybody's interested in that area and is interested, we'd love to have you join us. The information is on the website. A number of us are going to the Down Syndrome Affiliates in Action Leadership Conference in February, and look forward to seeing some of you there. I know some of you have plans to go. So those are just a few of the things that are going on now, and I'm going to turn it over to Ricky Sabia, the NDSC Senior Education Policy Advisor. Ricky?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Stephanie, our fearless leader. So I am going to talk some about the TIE Center and parent briefs from the TIE Center. I think a lot of you may know about the TIE Center, which is the official name was TIE Center on Inclusive Practices and Policies for Students with Significant Cognitive Disabilities. This center had a 5-year grant, which has ended, but the resources are still available, and we will give you the website for that. Also want to thank Valerie Williams, shout out, because this was funded by the Office of Special Education Programs. And my role, as you can see on the left, it may be too small for you to see, I don't know, was co-authoring the parent briefs we'll talk about today, reviewing other technical assistance documents, participating in the partner meetings, and co-presenting on some of the TIE's webinars. And we continue to disseminate resources from the TIE Center because they are really so valuable. And even though we're talking about the parent briefs today, if you go on their website and even if you don't remember the link, it's just Google TIE Center and it'll come up. There's all kinds of resources for educators, for policymakers, you know, really how you do education for these students in an inclusive setting. So next slide, please. So the reason why these TIES resources are so important, and why it was so important that OSEP recognized that this should be a center, is because even though there's a lot of talk about inclusion for students with disabilities, and you can see on the left, the green is the general education setting nationwide, 63% in the general education setting, and then the rest is in different settings. When it comes to students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, and those are the students who take alternate assessments, you can see that their biggest area is the yellow, which is self-contained placement. And then there's separate schools, and then there's resource rooms. So general education setting was only 3%. That's compared to 63% nationally for students with other disabilities. So just even having the center sends the message that OSEP meant these kids too. They were not to be excluded from inclusion. And that educators and parents needed resources in order to help get this done. Go ahead. So these are 10 of the parent briefs, and I won't read them all to you, but you can see the different topics that they include. And these resources are to help parents understand what the federal laws say and the regulations say about inclusion, but also about general education curriculum, about debunking myths, about communication supports. And there's a lot of myths out there, as you all know, as parents and self-advocates, around inclusion and why people say the students who take alternate assessments cannot be included. And so it's really important to have these resources for your individual advocacy, for advocating with your district and your state to make sure that they are actually following or even know about the federal law, because I think a lot of people in power do not even know that, for example, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is the Elementary, Secondary, and Education Act, says that you cannot preclude these students from attempting to complete the requirements of a regular high school diploma. So many parents tell me they're told their child has to come off diploma track because they take an alternate assessment, which was one of the myths. So in order to make it easier for you, you can go to the tiecenter.org for a wide variety of resources. But to make it easier, our wonderful Kim Owens put together a one-pager with all the links to these briefs. And you can see on the right of the slide, underneath NDAC one-pager with links, you can click on all the links from this one document and look at the different briefs that you want to look at. And it's all conveniently in one place for you. So I hope you will look at it and use it in your advocacy, and if you haven't already been doing that. And next, Heather will be speaking about the legislative agenda.
Thanks, Ricky. We always want to make sure that we highlight all those that wonderful resources that you create, especially the TIES Center ones. Just wanted to give some quick policy updates. Probably not a surprise, but not a whole lot is moving right now. We're kind of we're in an election year. We are coming to we're in the second year of the 118th Congress. There are some new bills that have recently been introduced where NDSS has been working with the Hill offices on language and to support them. And now we're supporting these bills and advocating for them. One is the Supporting Disabled Entrepreneurs Act, and that came to us through the Senate Small Business Committee, who noticed that there's a lot of entrepreneurs now with Down syndrome and other disabilities, and they said to us, how can we help you? How can we help them? And they decided to put in a bill to establish essentially a coordinator within the Small Business Administration that would specialize in disability-run businesses. So that would be very helpful. We're making sure that, IDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, is of course part of this. I've even talked to them about making sure that all materials they give out are in plain language. Another bill that has recently been introduced is the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Act. This has been introduced on the House side, and this basically it is similar to a lot of the Down syndrome information bills that we've worked on over the years on the state level. But this would require private insurers, so group and individual health insurance plans, to give out accurate and up-to-date information about Down syndrome to patients who receive a diagnosis. Again, bill was just introduced. There's not a Senate companion yet, but it is something that we're supporting. Some of these are a little bit older. The SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. I mentioned this because this is still one of our top priorities and has some good bipartisan support for it. This is a bill that would increase the asset limit in SSI from $2,000 to $10,000 a person for individuals. So it would also eliminate a marriage penalty with SSI. By increasing it to $10,000 for individuals, it specifically says that it would increase to $20,000 for married couples. So there would not be a marriage penalty, which we're going to talk about and which is certainly going to be the focus of this call. But just wanted to shout out the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. We have an action alert that is still current and up on our page. It's a very high score, meaning the bill is really going to cost a lot to the federal government. So, no guarantees that it's going to move forward, but it does have quite a bit of bipartisan support. We also have a current action alert up and are still pushing the Heads Up Act of 2023. This would basically designate people with IDD as a medically underserved population, which is a great thing because then we would get access to a lot more different resources within the framework of the government. And then finally, wanted to talk about EMSA, the Eliminating the Marriage Penalty and SSI Act. Jawanda, you want to go to the next slide? Okay, so before we get into that, I just want to go over sort of what is it when we talk about the marriage penalty, and in particular, what is the marriage penalty in SSI? As many of you know, SSI is a federal program for disabled people and older adults. It's mean tested, so they have to have little to no assets. They receive a monthly check from SSI, intended to cover things such as food, clothing, shelter, and then super important, SSI eligibility is the gateway to Medicaid, which provides health insurance, but also funding for home and community-based services for so many people. Right now, as it stands, and SSI has been in existence, the program, since 1974, and the rules have not been updated regarding the marriage penalty since then. Right now, the way it stands is that if you were to have two SSI beneficiaries, so two people who qualify for SSI, that want to get married, they actually get 25% less benefits. The marriage penalty affects three aspects of SSI. First of all, one of the ways to be eligible for SSI, in addition to meeting criteria for very significant disability, is you have to have very low assets. And we've talked about this, many, many times, and how it's so great to have a special needs trust or an ABLE account because those vehicles do not count toward the asset limit. Well, right now under SSI, the asset limit is $2,000 for an individual. Well, if two individuals get married, you'd think it would be $4,000, right? Not true. It actually specifically says that it's $3,000 for a married couple. This is based on the assumption that, you know, when people are married, they have less costs. Much data and anecdote has said that's not necessarily true, particularly for low-income people with disabilities. In addition to enabling a married couple to save less assets. The SSI law is currently structured so that when people get married, there is a lower maximum federal benefit amount. That means a lower monthly check. So right now, as of 2024, because the Social Security Administration just updated its rates, an eligible individual could receive up to $943 a month. Again, you'd think for two eligible individuals, it would be double that amount, but that's not the case. For a married couple, the most that they can receive together is $1,415 a month. Again, a 25% reduction in the benefit. And then finally, the in order to stay on SSI, you can only make a certain amount of income, and we've talked about this, and you know, happy to answer questions. But basically, there's only a certain amount of money that you can make as countable income in order to stay on SSI, because the assumption is that when you're on SSI, you're too disabled to work. Again, these things are predicated on a lot of older assumptions, but unfortunately, we've got to work with the laws that we have. So the third aspect of the marriage penalty in SSI is that there's a lower amount of monthly income allowed. So an individual in SSI can earn up to $1,971 a month. That would not count toward the calculations for SSI eligibility. A married couple can only earn together $2,915 a month. And again, these are updated for the 2024 rates. So as you can see, there's, you know, a big disincentive to get married, and, you know, a marriage penalty where it, you know, impacts your benefits, your federal, your financial well-being, and also quite possibly your access to the community and to services through Medicaid. So what are we going to do about it? I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Chapman, who can share some very exciting news about what's going on today, and talk further about this piece of legislation that NDSC is leading on. Okay, Chapman.
Thanks so much, Heather. Yeah, some exciting news. So the bill will be introduced today, and further backstory too. When I first started at NDSC, Craig is also a board member for NDSC, and he brought this issue up to me. And in my entire time on Capitol Hill, I'd never heard of this issue. So I'm glad that he told us, because we started getting, you know, hitting the ground running, looking for ways we could tackle this issue. And one way was through the IMSA bill. So we're so excited that it will be introduced today by Congressman Valadao, as well as Congresswoman Susie Lee. And as Heather was alluding to, this bill would amend the Social Security Act to provide that SSI benefits of adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities would not be reduced by reasons of marriage. So it does solve one portion of the marriage penalty dealing with SSIs, asset limits, monthly benefits, and income limitations. So our overall goal here is to encourage marriage. It's something that everyone should be able to do, especially in the Down syndrome community and the IDD community alike, as well as others. So this carve out would certainly solve that solution, and we're so excited to have that on the books today and being introduced today to move forward with more congressional support. So as I was saying, this bill would encourage marriage and stop the disincentivizing to get married, as well as provide people with IDD more self-determination and more choices in their life and their relationships and who they choose to marry and who they choose to love. And we're also excited to say, as we further this bill being introduced today and get towards more congressional support, we do plan to do a Valentine's Day campaign, February 14th this year, for IMSA, that we're going to highlight Craig and Heather's story, as well as do a call-in day with an action alert that we'll share more information with you after this call and in upcoming weeks, in order to call our members of Congress across the country and tell them more about this issue, educate their offices and staff on the issue, and try to gain more congressional support to get this across the finish line. And with that, I know we're excited to hear from Craig and Heather. So up next, we have Craig Blackburn and Heather Hancock, as well as Lisa Hancock, to continue on. So thank you all so much for joining the call today, and we're excited to hear from you.
Chapman, this is Jawanda. Just a second, Craig and Heather, before you start. Chapman, can you please repeat who the lead sponsors of the IMSA bill are?
Yes, Congressman David Valadeo from California, and we have Congresswoman Susie Lee, Democrat, Nevada.
So it's a bipartisan bill. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that one of our NDAC members, our very active NDAC members, Kelly Colzer Reyes in California, has been working with us, and I believe is going to be there today when the bill drops, if I understand correctly.
Thank you for
So-
mentioning that, Joanna. Kelly will be on site in California, and they have local media coverage as well as pictures with Valadeo and introduction. So we should have a press release out soon after this call, and we'll be sharing with everyone too. So, and up next, Craig and Heather.
Hi, I am Heather Hancock Blackburn. I just celebrated 40th birthday and I live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Graduated from the Westmore High School, Moore Norman Technology Center, and I graduated with Business Technology certification. I was voted Miss Westmore High School at prom. I work for the Oklahoma State Department of Education as an administrative assistant to the assistant state superintendent. I'm on the National Down Syndrome Advocacy Coalition member and the NDAC Sub-Advocate Council member. Thank you.
Hey, Craig and Heather and Lisa, before y'all go on, can you turn your camera on so we can see
Oh,
Craig and
can
Heather,
you see?
please?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it there? Did that work? Or?
Yeah,
it
there
is.
you go.
Okay, yay. Okay, Craig turned it on. Go ahead. I am Heather Hancock Blackburn. No, it's Craig's turn.
Hi, my name is Craig Blackburn. I had lived on his own and independently for 14 years in Metairie, Louisiana. I graduated with a regular high school diploma in 2000. Worked at the dream job as an equipment team member for the NBA team, the New Orleans Pelicans, NFL team, the New Orleans Saints. Participates in many of volunteer activities, Special Olympics, and more. Member of the NDAC Sub-Africa Council, National Down Syndrome Advocacy Coalition member. Thank you.
Our big dream. Craig and I met at a Down syndrome convention and fell in love. This was in 2004. I live in Oklahoma City and Craig lives in Louisiana. We do not live in the same state. We wanted to get married. We call ourselves husband and wife, but we are not legally married. We had a commitment ceremony with a pastor. Why did we choose this route? Thank you. We love and care deeply about one another, but outdated laws would cause us to lose the supports we need to live independently. We both advocate for changes to laws that will make it easier to live our dreams. We both want to see each save enough money to buy a house. We both want laws to change so we are able to live independently as husband and wife in the community of our choice. Thank you. The elimination the marriage penalty in SSI Act IMSA will be introduced this week. This bill would eliminate what it is called the marriage penalty. Craig and I are advocating for this passage of this. Won't you join us and help make our dreams come true? Thank you.
Ways we are advocating, and so can you. Watch for the information from the NDAC on IMSA, or you sign up for the NDAC action alerts. Provide an email you can send or add your information. Watch for a call-in day where people around the country call representatives and senators.
This
Tell your story.
this is the reason why I advocate for this bill, because it for us allow us to tell our story and what we're fighting for, and as an advocate, so we can make the difference in our community, and so we can be successful in life, and in other organizations as well.
And tell your story.
Okay, I'm Lisa Hancock. I'm Heather's mother and Craig's mother-in-law. And over the years, the two of them, met, and their dream was to get married. So Craig's mother, Pat, and I tried to figure out ways they could do it. And the only thing we could come up with without affecting all their services and their Social Security and their ability to be independent was just to do a commitment ceremony. So they had a commitment ceremony in 2016 in St. Thomas. We went on a cruise, got off the ship in St. Thomas, and had an arranged the wedding ceremony and a small reception, and there was a pastor there, and they of course asked, did we want to do it legally? And we said no, they can't do it legally because it will affect a lot of things in their lives. So we just decided to do it that way. And Heather and Craig both have been really advocating for this bill every time they go to DC, whether it's not been in play at all, but they would always mention it to their legislators every time they went, that was something that they were concerned about. So this marriage penalty for SSI Act, IMSA, there's a number of laws that impact Heather and Craig with their disabilities and wanting to be married. Not just this, but this is a beginning. One is referred to as the marriage penalty, SSI, and there is, I can't see my slide. There we go. There is a $2,000 asset, like Heather said, limit to be able to receive certain government benefits, such as the SSI. And if Craig and Heather were to marry, it would limit them to $3,000, like she had said before, in assets for both of them, which would also they would receive 25% less monthly SSI payments. And they couldn't earn any more than 25% less in income than if they remained unmarried. And I mean, that's an issue in itself, because every year or every couple of years, SSI wants to know what they're making, why they're making that much money. Heather last year ended up, they stopped her SSI because she had made too much money. Well, we had to go to the employers to sign a form that talked about that they are accommodating her skills, and they do pay her more than what her skills for a person that didn't have a disability. So we had to prove that before they would start her Social Security up again. So those issues on an individual basis, much less if they were married, we would have problems with. And there's other laws that also make it nearly impossible for them to marry that we're not going to discuss today, because this is a first step in several things that need to happen for them to have a legal marriage. And we believe that IMSA Act is the first step towards the changes that will eliminate their obstacles for to live their dream of being married and being able to live in the same city. Even moving from state to state has its challenges. So that's kind of where we're at with the whole IMSA.
So Lisa, Heather, and Craig, I bet we have people that have questions for you, but we are going to make people wait just a little bit. We're going to finish our slides real quick, but I'm going to put somebody on the spot. I just learned that Kelly Colzer Reyes is on the call, and she is our NDAC member who has been involved with working with the sponsor of this bill. Kelly, is there anything you can share with us today?
Well, hopefully you can hear me. I'm sorry I'm driving. I'm actually driving away from Congressman Valadeo right now. He was quite gracious and spent a bit of time talking about the bill and how he's very excited about it. He's got some hopes that because it's bipartisan, that we'll see what will happen. I do know that his staff requested if anybody has a good connection to their Republican colleagues, that they connect either with me or and I can connect you to Parker, or connect to Jawanda and Heather, and they can connect you to me. And that will just get you connected to that office so that your constituency can be really impactful. So he said he's going to have plenty of Democrats who will jump on, which is great. Remember, the party doesn't matter. What matters is that we're making impact. But in this case, my rep is a Republican who is looking for additional Republicans, and they like to add them on one at a time, like on both sides of the aisle. So you get one Republican, you add a Democrat. Get one Republican, add a Democrat. And go back and forth so that they're adding them evenly, and so it doesn't look like it's overwhelmingly one side or the other, or they'll never get the other side to play nicely. And since we all have one big sandbox that we're going to work in together, hopefully that's helpful. So please reach out to Jawanda or Heather, and I don't really have any more information, but I'm happy I could be here for like 10 minutes.
Kelly, thank you so much. We had hoped to have Kelly on with Lisa, Craig, and Heather, and because we didn't know what time everything was going to start, we didn't do that. But guys, you are seeing in action why NDAC is so important. Because of our NDAC network, our coalition, we are able to have people in California, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and all over the country. And it will be because of those connections you all make that we're going to pass this bill, right, Heather and Craig?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And before I run through the rest of our slides, I'm going to tell you a little Heather story. I do not believe I have ever had a conversation with Heather Hancock Blackburn, as she corrects me sometimes, that she doesn't talk to me about the marriage penalty. And she talks to the mayor, the superintendent of schools. She talks to everybody. She has not missed a person. We should all be as committed to this as Heather is. So Heather, thank you for setting a great example for us.
Thank you.
All right, let's finish these slides so we can ask them some questions. So this is contact information. You can contact any of them directly, or you can come to us and we will connect you to them. Guys, I just talked about our NDAC group. This gives you an update. I can't see my whole slide, but we've got 864 NDAC members across all states. And we do still need self-advocate members in some states. You know, it is great that we have an NDAC member in every state, but what's really going to make my heart happy, to quote my own daughter, is when we have NDAC members, self-advocates in Alaska, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Maine, Wyoming, Vermont, Rhode Island. I can't see my slide, y'all. So New Hampshire, New Mexico, and Oregon. So if you all know anyone in those states, would you please get them to connect with me, because we need members there. NDSC convention is the save the date. Registration opens March 12th. You will be able to sign up there. So go go online and check that out and set your alarm on your calendar to sign up to register for convention on that day, okay? Then Advocacy Training Boot Camp at the NDSC convention. This will be our 7th one. It will be on Friday, July 26th. It is free to everyone who registers for convention, be it youth, adults, siblings, or general convention. And some of you will be, that don't know it yet, will be taking part in Advocacy Training Boot Camp and leading, and we could not do it without you. So we hope that you will sign up. We also hope that you will share this opportunity with others. It is aimed at beginners, and we like going to different states because it helps us be able to share the basics of advocacy with new people all over the country every year. These are 2 opportunities for advocacy. You will get this slide, so I'm not going to go in depth, but the Disability Policy Seminar and the Down Syndrome Advocacy Conference, NDSS's Down Syndrome Advocacy Conference, one in March, one in April, if you're looking for more opportunities for training or to go to the Hill. Here's some more research sources. We have great resources on the NDSC website for advocacy. We house everything that we do at boot camp. All of those presentations can be found on our website under Policy and Advocacy. And then we also have some additional training resources like examples of one-pagers, a resource list that gives you all kinds of resources. And I think people forget about that. So I hope some of you will look to that and share it because it's like a training session in itself. Here is how you can sign up for action alerts. If you can't do anything else, sign up for action alerts because it's a really easy way to connect with legislators. NDAC members, we've added a bunch of you, but we are still short. We only have, I think we have 435 NDAC Facebook group members, so we need 400 more of you to join our private Facebook group. These are the dates of our next calls. Wednesday, April 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can see these. Please mark your calendar on those. This is how you can follow NDSC. Again, you're going to get these slides so you can see us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This is for those of you looking for our congressional policy agenda. Heather mentioned this when she spoke. We do have a public policy agenda that kind of guides us for each Congress. We just started the 2nd year of the 118th Congress. We have this in plain language, Spanish and English. You can do the QR codes or you can go to this site, whatever works for you. I think that's it. Here is how you can contact all of us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I think, have we answered questions over here? Okay, do we have any questions we did not get to in the chat? We can open this up for questions to anybody that has questions for any of us, but specifically Craig, Heather, and Lisa. But anybody that has a question, we're happy to answer it. We have a great group today. Melissa Silverman, are you trying to ask a question? As Chapman said, we're going to do a Valentine's Day rollout where we're going to do a call-in day for IMSA. And you will see information from us, and we will give you information on what you need to say to your legislators. But I'm going to tell you from personal experience and from observational experience for many years that telling a story is your best way to get anywhere. And I see a hand over here. Amy Van Bergen, has a question.
This is a question for Heather and Craig. You mentioned that you live in 2 different states. How often are you able to spend time together?
It's usually during like the holiday season, like my birthday, he'll come. And he normally comes for Valentine's. But he's coming for Not Shine, and we're going to go to Dallas together for the NIA conference. So what we do is we call each other even though we're not with each other. Sometimes I go to his state if it's his birthday or special holidays that he does in Louisiana. So I go up there, or he'll come here to visit me during those months.
Anywhere from 4 to 6 times a year they see each
Yeah.
other. And where'd y'all go this past summer?
We went on the cruise
We went-
together.
We went on a cruise on Carnival.
On the Mardi Gras.
Nice.
Oh,
Mardi
yeah.
Gras Carnival on cruise ship.
Well, thank you.
Kate
Thank you.
O'Neill, my friend, it's nice to see you. Kate has a question.
I do, but I think possibly Chapman's just answered it in the chat. I was hoping that before the EMSA rollout around Valentine's Day that we could get some information to share with our communities, some social media blurbs, that kind of thing, because we'd be happy to share that widely.
Thank you, Kate. We will be sharing that information. And I was saying about the personal stories. Like for me, here's an example for you. I have a 24-year-old daughter who has been boy crazy since the day she was born. And that's not exaggeration. And, my story and my legislators would be Rachel's story, that Rachel wants to get married. And I don't have any other children, but if I did, if they wanted to get married, I would want to support them in that. So my message to my legislators is, Rachel will have a hard time getting married legally because of laws that we have that make it difficult, and then telling them what's wrong with those laws and what we need to do to fix them. And that's compelling arguments. And Rachel and I are going to DC to visit some people next week, and we're going to be talking about this. Rachel's going to be talking about this, and that impacts legislators. So think about your life, and maybe you don't have somebody that's an adult with a disability, but maybe it's another child, or maybe it's a friend. But we all have a story that we can use to tell legislators that this is important and why it's important, and it will make an impact. So, other questions?
Hi, it's Jan from Indiana. Hi, everyone. I have a kind of a statement question. I live in Indiana. Those that don't know me, I have a son, 22. He's now going to college program in University of Cincinnati, and this impacts those that want to get married or move to another state, or the waiver issues and the supports that you can't cross the state lines. And I've been saying for years, I guess the attorney in me is, there needs to be some type of class action about how this restricts travel across state lines and things like that. And we have a big waiver issue here in Indiana that just came up, where suddenly there's $1 billion shortfall because they changed the funding from the Medicaid area to the general fund. They moved over $500 million there last year, and now they have $1 billion shortage. So they're eliminating the legally responsible individual, LRIs, from receiving payment to stay home with their medically problematic, or their child with disabilities. So I'm kind of curious and I'll be approaching that advocacy here, but nationally, is there anything moving as far as these supports and the money that it's supposed to stay with the person, but we don't see that happening?
I can take that. Hey, Jan.
Hi.
Hi. So national, a big focus of the Biden administration has been on caregiver supports, which includes, paid caregivers, or, parents who are giving support through whatever HCBS waiver they're on. And so there are several bills right now in Congress that, do provide resources, technical assistance, et cetera. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them are bipartisan. So, you know, and that's just due to the cost of the bills. You know, so I'm not too optimistic that they're moving anywhere. I can say that in the state of Maryland, we're dealing with some similar type of things. You know, cutting funding for people who serve as those, you know, care supporters. So I don't think it's unique to Indiana, but it is a shame that it's happening. And you know, I'm eager to hear what you and the other state advocates you know, decide to do.
Okay, I'll keep you posted on what,
Yeah.
you know, we're advocating on this end, and there has to be something by this next month, I think. So it only affects minors and those parents that are being paid, because of course there's no supports here or anywhere, DSPs, nurses, anything. And so it's very critical for those families. And I just didn't know if it was happening nationally or is it just our, even though we have a $3 billion, you know, slush fund that they don't want to touch. This is going on. So I just thought
Jan,
I'd put that out there.
Jan, I have a question for you. Is there a difference in your state? Because I'm in Kansas, and in Kansas, there is a difference. Is there a difference if you are the guardian of the child or if
Yes.
you are not the guardian?
Yes.
So is it applicable to people who are not guardians of their
No.
child?
No.
Okay, that's the way it is in Kansas too. I'm not
Right.
sure about other states.
Yeah, they're
Jan,
changing it. So parents cannot be, any guardians cannot be anybody. I think it's, and I need to read more because this was just brought up last couple of days, but from what I understand, it's just the aging H&W pathway. I know it's the medically fragile waiver, aging something. It doesn't affect the waiver we have with our son, but all these caregivers that were paid during the pandemic, and from what I understand, it was implemented before in other states before the pandemic, but now all of a sudden they're taking all of these caregivers and guardians and parents off, and they're like, well, you can have the grandmother or the aunt or, you know, whatever, do it, but you know, that's not what they want, and that's not right, but the money's there. So yeah, I'll be keeping my eyes out what everybody else is doing if it's happening nationally too.
we have a question from Christopher Bennett. You're muted, Christopher. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah.
Why, hello, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. I'm also in supporting my wife, who you met a couple of times, who's an NDAC member too as well. So my question is, I like to know that I signed up for the disability policy seminar in DC. My mom Melody is coming with me. So my question about that would be, what more do we need to know in preparing for April, leading into April?
I'll take it, Joanda. Hi, Christopher. It sounds like you've got a lot of birds near
Oh,
you.
pardon me. Yes.
Or one.
Very popular.
So with Disability Policy Seminar, NDSC is not partnering with them this year, but we have partnered in the past, and it's really a great it's a great policy learning opportunity. Typically, it's my understanding that people make their own Hill meetings. So if you're going to be in DC, you need to make your own meetings. As the time gets closer, the Disability Policy Seminar for folks will kind of tell people they need to make their own meetings, and they'll give you some possible days. But you and I can talk about this offline. If you're going to be in DC, you know, you really should go to the Hill.
I do like to was mentioned before I put myself back on mute again. I think it's worth it. Um, I'm thinking about being an intern for a United States congressman. In my area, you might know him. United States Representative Congressman Mike Thompson of the Napa County District Office. So, and I have an internship with the Napa County District Office in Napa. Just want to mention it.
Hey, Christopher, before you go, we will have all the information that we have out about this, including one-pagers. And we also are developing, it's almost finalized, a list of bills that NDSC is supporting. We can't take the lead on all of these bills, but we do have a list of bills that we're supporting that should be ready just any day now. We'll be
Right.
sharing that with NDAC members. So as
Right.
NDAC members, you will have all these materials to support you in your outreach to your elected officials. So thank you, Christopher. Are
Of
there
course.
any other questions? Madison Essick asked about another Hill Day. You may have missed those, Madison. Hope you're doing well. NDSS will have their Down Syndrome Advocacy Conference on World Down Syndrome Day, and then the Disability Policy Seminar, that's in the slides. It's April 8th through 10th, I think. Those are both opportunities for you. You can see that information in the slides. Madison, since you live right there in the area, you can go visit anytime you want, and I bet you could talk somebody on this call that lives there into going with you. Let me know if you need help with that. Any other questions, comments? Craig and Heather, you have anything else you want to share, or Lisa?
No, we just want to thank everybody for listening to us and supporting the bill
Yes, me and Craig and Abe will have our dream that we
So we're
outcame for.
we're very excited
Yeah.
that the bill will be put down sometime today. But like I said, Lisa, Heather, Mr. Bill, and everybody else would like to thank y'all because we push ourselves forward to pass this bill.
Yeah, give us the great opportunity for us.
Well, Heather, I think your congressman should be the next Republican signed on to this bill.
Okay.
Yeah, we were thinking that too. I thought about Tom Cole, and he's been a good friend of Heather's, and Heather's invited him and set up a meeting when he was in town and she invited a bunch of people to it. So maybe she's got to do that again.
Yeah, y'all,
And
she
also-
did that without her mom knowing, by the way. She set up this meeting and didn't tell her mom, so that was pretty funny. You know, Lisa, you just said something that made me think. It is great when we get meetings with our elected officials themselves. The reality is we often are meeting with our staffers, and everyone always acts disappointed about that. But you know what? The staffers are the ones who plead your case. Chapman is a former staffer, as is Stephanie, who's not on the call anymore. And there's probably some others on here, but one of the best pieces of advice I could have for anyone is get to know the staff that work for your elected officials, because they're the ones that are going to help you get your information to that elected official. So don't be shy about getting a visit in your home office, even if it's not with Tom Cole and Heather's situation.
I think that's where Heather started, was with
Yes.
his staff. And then I guess it just so happened he was going to be in. So Heather coordinated, the staff helped her out with that too. So.
Right. See, that's a great example. The staff will help you with that. And I will also tell you, you're more likely to get an in-person visit with the member if you have a person with Down syndrome, a self-advocate with you. That's not always true, but it does help. So, well, yes,
Rhonda,
Craig.
Also, like, can you put Chapman on too?
Chapman's on.
Please.
There he is.
I'm right here, Craig.
So, like I said, after the fact that Chapman was with our parents that year in DC, and it's like Chapman is our very special brother to me, as well as Heather, Miss Neeson, and everybody else here, including our parents in New Orleans. You're very special in so many places because you are always there for us. And that's why we want this bill to pass. And y'all staff encourage that. And we know we can do it.
You're the reason who we work for, Craig. That's certainly the case. And we certainly want to make sure that, you know, we can work to improve y'all's lives as much as we can. So I appreciate you saying that. Then we're happy it's getting introduced, and like you said, it's taken a little longer than expected, but we finally got something on the books that we can try to push. So we're excited about it.
Thanks.
Well, I think we're coming up on our 2:00 hour. We will see you all in a couple of months. Probably talk to and communicate with you before that. Watch for some emails from us, one with the slides and the video, and then others with legislation and action alerts so you can act on this and other legislation. Thank you all so much.